What happens when you take a game with no story and try to give it one? Hey, what is up guys? My name is Radaron, and today we're talking about Minecraft Story Mode, a game that I played a good bit when I was younger, and I was playing it when it came out back in 2015. Now, Minecraft has always been known for being a game where you make your own story. Ever since it was released by Mojang Studios, the whole point has been freedom, such as building whatever you want, exploring at your own pace, and basically deciding your own goals. There's no main storyline, no set path, and that's exactly why so many people like it. So when Telltale Games announced Minecraft Story Mode in 2015, it felt kind of unexpected and a little strange. I was included in this, and instead of giving players like total control, this game was going to tell a specific story with characters, with dialogue and choices. At its core, Minecraft Story Mode is about taking a world that usually doesn't have a set narrative and trying to turn it into something more like a movie or TV series that you can interact with. You play as Jesse, a character whose appearance you can choose at the start. Jesse isn't some legendary hero in the beginning, he's just a regular person with a small group of friends. That group includes Axel, who's loud and impulsive, Olivia, who's more logical and focused, Petra, who's experienced and confident, and Ruben, Jesse's pet pig. The characters are written in a pretty simple way, but they work well enough to keep the story moving and give you people to care about. The story starts off with Jesse and their friends looking up to a famous group called the Order of the Stone. This group is basically made up of heroes who are known for defeating an Ender Dragon, and right away you can tell the game is using a pretty classic setup. Regular people inspired by legends who end up getting pulled into something much bigger than themselves. We've all seen this story before. And that something bigger turns out to be the Witherstorm, which becomes the main threat in the first season of the game. The Witherstorm is created when a command block is used in a dangerous way, and it quickly gets out of control. It's a lot more intense than anything you'd normally see in regular Minecraft gameplay. Like, instead of just surviving mobs or fighting a normal wither or exploring caves, the characters are dealing with something that can destroy entire areas or even the world and absorb everything around it. This is where the game kind of really starts to separate itself from normal Minecraft. It's not about open-ended survival anymore, but more like stopping a specific problem with a very clear goal, instead of the more open world, you can do whatever you want kind of thing with the sandbox game of Minecraft. Gameplay-wise, the game follows the same style as other Telltale titles, especially like the Walking Dead Telltale series. Most of what you do involves choosing dialogue options, reacting quickly during action scenes, and occasionally walking around small areas to interact with objects, or, just like solve puzzles. The choices are supposed to shape how the story plays out. For example, you might decide which friend to go to in one way or another, or how to respond in a tense situation, or who to trust, or who to help. These decisions can change certain scenes or relationships, but overall the main storyline doesn't change too much, and this was kind of a common criticism with Minecraft Story Mode, where people were saying, well, what's the point of having choices when all this stuff kind of just leads to the same thing in the end?
Let's build a portal real quick!
We don't have the materials for it!
What do you mean? Where'd all your materials go? Okay, fine, let's build a minecart!
No, we can't do that either.
How about these convenient horses?
You mean, what's the point of having choices in this game if they all lead to the same thing?
It's like, no matter what you pick, the game still leads you to the same kind of end goal. So that was kind of a criticism people had, that while it feels like your choices matter in the moment, when you look back on it, a lot of those decisions don't actually change the ending in a big way. It's more about how the story plays out rather than where it actually ends up. Still, for a lot of players, especially those who weren't used to this kind of game, including myself, the choices added enough engagement to keep things interesting. I was actually under the impression that it would change the ending of the game, so definitely threw me off at the start. As the first season of the game goes on, Jesse slowly becomes more of a leader. At the start, they're just trying to fix a mistake and just survive, but by the end, they're making really important decisions and taking responsibility for others, and they're like trying to save the world. It's a pretty standard character arc, but it works because it fits the tone of the game, and Minecraft itself is simple. The story also has a mix of serious and lighter moments, which helps keep it from feeling too heavy and too serious. And plus, at the end of the day, it is Minecraft, so, I mean, it kind of makes sense for it to be simple. Another thing the game does well is adapting Minecraft mechanics into the story. You know, stuff like crafting still exists, but instead of being something you do super freely, it's kind of part of like specific scenes. For example, you might have to quickly choose the right materials to build something during an action sequence. Sometimes you may have to be familiar with redstone or the nether or how different mobs are included in your situation. But they're used in a way that supports the narrative instead of just being there for like gameplay alone. After the first season did pretty well, a second season was released though that continued Jesse's story. This time the focus shifts a bit. Instead of dealing with a giant monster like a Witherstorm, the main villain is the Admin, a character with the ability to control the world in extreme ways. The conflict becomes more personal, and there's more attention on how Jesse's actions affect their friends. The writing tries to go a bit deeper, especially when it comes to like trust and responsibility. Season 2 also improves some of the character interactions. Relationships feel slightly more developed, and there's more tension between characters at times. However, the core gameplay doesn't change that much, except for a few like small mechanics. I noticed that the combat changed a little bit, but it's still mostly about making choices and kind of just watching the story unfold. So if someone didn't like the first season's style, the second probably wouldn't change their mind. Outside of the game itself, it's important to look at what was happening with Telltale Games at the time. The company was releasing a lot of episodic games, and over time it became harder for them to keep up. And by 2018, the studio shut down due to financial problems. Because of that, many of their games, including Minecraft Story Mode, were removed from digital stores. This made the game harder to find and play, especially for new players who discovered it later. So, one way I found is that you can sometimes find keys on Amazon and buy them that way. I happen to already have the games purchased, so I can download them at any time, but for a lot of people, they would go on Amazon and they would basically purchase keys or wherever else they could find it on the internet. Even though it's not super accessible anymore, Minecraft Story Mode still has a place in the overall Minecraft franchise. It showed that the Minecraft world could be used for more than just sandbox gameplay. Even though the original game doesn't need a story, this version proved that one could exist and still feel kind of cool. At the same time, the game also shows the limits of trying to add structure to something that's meant to be open. Some players enjoyed having a guided experience, while others felt like it took away from what makes Minecraft special, you know, the freedom and such. It really depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you want total freedom, the original game is definitely going to be better for you. But if you want characters and a clear storyline, Minecraft Story Mode offers something different. Looking back, Minecraft Story Mode feels like an experiment that mostly worked. Even if it wasn't perfect, it introduced a lot of players to story-based games, especially younger audiences who were already fans of Minecraft. It also gave a different perspective on a world that people were used to controlling themselves. So in the end, it's not really trying to replace Minecraft or compete with it, it's just another way of experiencing it. And even though it's not talked about as much anymore, it's still an interesting part of Minecraft's history, and it's just like a good thing to know about. It kind of shows how flexible the idea of the game can get, and even if it doesn't work for everyone, it still does have a bit of a following online from what I've seen. So overall, I think it's a pretty decent game. At the time it was coming out, I was pretty young, so I was liking it a lot. Looking back, yeah, it was kind of boring, and it kind of took away a lot of creativity, but hey, I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, and I guess that's all that matters to me. But let me know what you guys think of Minecraft Story Mode, whether or not you guys played it when it was coming out, and if it was fun for you. I'm curious to see what everyone is saying about it, so just let me know, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you all for watching.